Make sure it's about your child and not you. Allow them to fail fast forward, where failure isn't a bad thing if you treat it as a learning experience. Too many parents, when they see their child fail, it tears them up. I mean, I had trouble with this and I knew I was doing it. When you watch your child fail in public, it's one of the hardest things to deal with in the world. But they learn more from their failure if they're not judged by their failure.
Welcome to The Golf Parent, where you get access to the best minds in junior golf. Today, my guest is Tom House, the legendary biomechanics coach who's worked with icons like Tom Brady, Nolan Ryan, Roger Clemens, and so many more. He's known as the father of modern throwing. Tom has transformed how athletes understand movement, timing, and performance. He's also co-founded the Mustard Golf app, and it brings world-class sports science directly to golfers. In our conversation, Tom opens up about what really separates good athletes from great ones, why balance is the most important variable for golfers, how timing and sequencing can change everything in a swing, and why early specialization can actually be holding our kids back. We also dive into the critical windows, the trainability windows before adolescence, the role of play and fun in long-term development, and how tools like breathing and visualization can help kids manage stress and anxiety on and off the course. But before we dive into the episode, I want to thank our partner for this episode, the International Junior Golf Academy, IJGA. What sets IJGA apart is their incredible environment for junior golfers. Their students get access to their own private golf course, only the students, and it's reserved exclusively for them. They train on world-class practice facilities among the very best in the game, and perhaps most importantly to us parents, IJGA boasts a college placement rate near 99%, helping their students take the next step in competitive golf. If you're serious about giving your junior golfer every opportunity to succeed, IJGA is the place to be. Now, let's jump into my conversation with Tom House. My guest today is a very esteemed, now I don't know, Tom, should I call you Dr. House? Because you certainly deserve it, but I don't know if that's what we should be calling you or not.
We were kind of laughing off camera. My mom is the only one that really enjoyed putting the PhD by my name. I'm just Coach House is or Tom House.
Coach House, Tom, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the Golf Parent Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Looking forward to it.
Tom, your name first came into my world years ago when I was watching football, and they were talking, I can't remember which game it was, but it was your involvement with Tom Brady and kind of working with his swing, and that's when I first heard your name. And then when I looked a little bit more into you, I realized that you have worked with the best of the best when it comes to the throwing motion, from Randy Johnson to Greg Maddux to Nolan Ryan, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, on and on and on. Maybe can you just start with just how did you get involved in kind of the throwing motion, biomechanics? How did you get started on this journey?
Ryan, that's an interesting question. It may look like it was well thought out and orchestrated with perfection, but I had no clue what I was doing. In fact, I think behind my back, they call me the Forrest Gump of sports because it just seemed like whenever something cool was happening, I happened to be in the area code. So in the mid to early 80s, this new technology called motion analysis came out. And I had just wound up my playing career and was really into the coaching side of the equation and looking for ways to make my presentation better, obviously give me a better chance to do a good job in the big leagues and all the stuff that came with it. So I mortgaged my house, bought a motion capture system, and just started capturing stuff. And then as luck would have it, I was a pitching coach for the Texas Rangers at that time. And Bobby Valentine and Tom Grieve. Bobby was a field manager, and Tom Grieve was a general manager. And they were young and hungry and looking for new technology. And they just allowed me to bring my technology, my aerial system into the stadium. And we started capturing pictures. I would capture anything that moved, from golfers, et cetera, et cetera. And to be honest, Ryan, we really didn't even know what we were looking at. we just sat. I remember Bobby Valentine saying, "Okay, Tom, you got all this technology. What are we going to do with it?" And I said, "Bobby, I really don't know because I'm not sure what we're looking at." Well, again, uh, we started figuring out, well, instead of looking at everybody's delivery or swing or what it might be, let's just look at 30 of the best in three sports: golf, baseball, and quarterback in football. So we did. And we got Marino in Montana, we got their model, and we came up with this um, functional approach to rotational athletic movement. And that's how it started. And that model is based on Hall of Famers. I think what most people do out there when they're capturing data and looking for white papers and all the technology for validation is they capture huge numbers, thousands, and try to draw conclusions from that. We went to our model was if we can find them, the Hall of Famers in all three of those sports. And that's what we based it on.
That makes so much sense that you're going after Hall of Famers because you're seeing a longevity in their career as well as obviously they were elite in their sport. In analyzing the data, did you see what combination was it like genetics that they were potentially just born with extra kind of physical gifts that others weren't, or was it really a specific swing motion or a ingrained kind of movement pattern that they had that was different than the non-Hall of Famers?
Well, that's a great question. Believe it or not, a 6-year-old and a tour professional have the same basic swing that they've had their whole life, however long it might be. So I like to say there's one set of rules, but there's a million interpretations. And without getting too crazy, you break it down into variables that are controllable and variables that are uncontrollable, independent versus dependent. And we found um, with golfers, hitters, and pitchers and quarterbacks, the independent variables were timing and kinematic sequencing. If you were going to be any good on a golf course, you had this framework of timing into hitting the ball. And you did certain, what we call kinematic sequencing is my body does this from feet to ankles to knees, all the way up the kinetic chain and out into the club head and onto the golf ball. So again, they all had timing and they all had sequencing. And then there's the dependent variables, which apply in a generic way to everybody. If you're a golfer, Ryan, you're going to have some form of balance. You can't swing a golf club if you can't control your head and your torso. So there, for golfers, there were 7 dependent variables. For pitchers, there were 9. For quarterbacks, there were 6. And we just started crunching data, and there became our model.
Those dependent variables for golfers, what a are they ranked? Are there some that are more important, like balance, for example, than other of those variables? Like, what would you say are the 3 most important, dependent variables for a golfer?
I gotta hang around with you more often. But people are not going to believe that we didn't set this up ahead of time. But what you just asked is a question. If you're going to succeed as a pro golfer or an amateur golfer, you're going to have balance, and it's called a stepwise regression analysis. You look for the most important dependent variable, the second most important, until the variable really doesn't affect the overall outcome of the swing, and you hit it perfectly. Balance is number one. For you to move around as a human being, you have to have balance, or you're falling all the time. You can't control your torso. You can't control your fingers. So balance is number one, and then uh, weight shift or energy translation is number two. When you shift your weight, your body moves, and when your body stops moving a certain direction, it translates energy up the system. So it's balance and posture, stride and momentum, and then hip and shoulder separation and two, three more, and you've completed your swing or your delivery. So those regression analysis from the most important to the least important variable. So you were very perceptive there, and it simplifies things. And it's difficult for the normal non-coach dad to look at a swing or a throw or look at his kid um, swinging at something or hitting something or throwing something and say, okay, is this the perfect swing for my son or my daughter? And we can actually help with that, with the technology that we have. And that's one of the reasons I'm excited to be talking to you today, is to let people know, to let that mom and dad of a 12-year-old that looks and is having success, is he projectable to maybe college or the pro ranks? So we can actually do that right now.
That's fantastic. And that's for those that don't realize, you were one of the, if not the founder, but like the brainchild behind TPI and now Mustard Golf, the app as well. Is that correct?
That's close. You're giving me a little bit too much credit with TPI. Greg Rose and Dave Phillips were the geniuses behind that. But the compliment to their genius was that they went out and they found people like me, put them on their board of advisors, and locked us in a room and said, when you come out of the room, we want consensus on our teach with the athletes we're working with, whether they're junior golfers or whether they're PGA Tour pros. And so they gave the format to get the information and instruction out to where parents and coaches could get delivery, inspiration, and ignition, a magic word, a commitment from the athlete for the information and instruction they got. They would get a commitment to make themselves better accordingly.
I like that word ignition. I know it's a big part of just like igniting that passion or igniting that learning, I guess, in the student. Is that how you would define ignition?
You're dead on. Anybody can deliver information, and anybody can, have passion and have motivation and commitment to getting whatever they want done. But ignition is when more than half your 90 trillion cells are truly committed to whatever it might be, golf, pitching, and everything you do is looked at through that lens. You still have to be a good person. You still have to go to school, take notes, do your homework. But ignition is when everything that you're doing will ultimately be seen or accomplished through a golf, baseball, or football window.
Tom, if you were given a project and you were given basically a blank canvas or a young mind from a very, very early age, and you wanted to give this child the best chance to succeed in golf, what would be the windows you'd be looking at? What would you be doing? Would it be having them into multiple sports? Would you really be focused in on just one sport? How would you best kind of develop that child into becoming the best golfer that they could be? And what would be kind of the windows or the age groups? And what would you be doing during that whole process?
Ryan, you're really setting me up. This is awesome that you laid it out this way, because there are windows of trainability. And the windows basically are pre-adolescent is window number one, and that's a neurological window. Window number two is when hormones, testosterone, estrogen kick in, and that window is usually from 13 till about 19, maybe 20 years old. The third window is skill acquisition, and that's 20 years old till 34, 35. And the fourth window is skill retention. And there are certain approaches to maximizing nerve, muscle, connective tissue in a movement that will support whatever the skill is they're after. And identifying that and then teaching accordingly is how you get the most out of your athletes. You mentioned the word specialization. With a pre-adolescent, there's no way a pre-adolescent should specialize in a single sport. He or she should be able to get out and move any sport, anything they can do to create a larger nervous system. It's called myelinization, getting your nerves and your muscles to talk to each other, whether it's a 6-year-old riding a three-wheeler, whatever it might be. The more activity you can to create more neural pathway programs, the better that athlete is going to be long term. And we used to think that throwing hard or running fast or hitting a golf ball a long way was genetic. You can actually program it now. It's myelinization and mitochondria talking to each other around certain, policies, procedures, whatever they might be. And the great thing about today's world is the technology is out there to measure and quantify. The thing that is still lacking, I believe, Ryan, is the ability to, once you've identified, quantified, do you have to teach to fix or promote getting better at that movement? So it's an exciting time to be a coach or a parent in this world.
You mentioned myelinization, and I'm somewhat familiar because I have read into it. And myelin, the way I understand it, is basically it's the more you do one thing over and over again, the quicker your body can access that one thing. So it's kind of like going from dial up to fiber optics with whatever that movement is within your brain. It creates this
Great,
like
great,
sheath or something.
great analogy. Yep, yep.
Okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second. If I want my kid to be an expert baseball player or hockey player or whatever the sport is, would I not want them to be ingraining that one movement of how to do it over and over again? So their myelin, for lack of a better analogy, would be this giant, thick like band of cables, as opposed to having a spider network of being able to run, jump, ride a tricycle, swing, all these different ones. Would I not want their myelin to be really hyper focused on the activities that would be specific to that one sport? Am
That
I saying that correct? Does that make sense?
what you said is exactly the trap we all fell into way back when we could identify an optimal movement for this particular athlete. We jumped right into this is always going to do the 10,000 reps, whatever it might be. So the body has wrapped the nervous system to only deal with those nerves, nerve trees, and pathways that allow this kid to be a really good golfer. Well, you and I both know that bodies change, injuries happen, climates changes. There's swing inefficiencies, there's functional strength, there's injury. All those things affect, and you're continually trying to manage the chaos of the environment with the neural pathways of your particular sport. So the more you have on the shelf, the better you're going to be as you get further and further into your life and the windows of trainability we talked about earlier. So you could specialize, and golf is probably one of the few sports where you could actually specialize. Really, the Tiger Woodses of the world. I think, if I remember correctly, he was swinging a golf club when he was 2 years old. But what
That
you
that is the story,
understand
yeah.
is he also played soccer. He did other things, but his specialty, and he had a gift, was literally golf. So you can do it, but I would strongly recommend for anybody that's listening to us talk that for that first window, the neurological is to get as many nerve trees as you can set up in the body for when you do specialize. And then when you do specialize, you have a broader base by which to choose from to get your swing efficient long term.
So an analogy that's coming to mind right now to kind of crystallize this, and tell me if you agree with this, would be in that early window, it would be the equivalent of driving a different way home every single day. So instead of just taking the one highway constantly every single day back and forth, let's just say from home to work, so that in the future, if that road does close down or if there's an accident on it, you have other routes that you can then go through in your neural network to be able to still get to the same destination. Is that
Exactly.
a good analogy?
Exactly right. And you're forced to remyelinate or hypermyelinate. And can I expand on what you just said?
Please, yeah.
And this is one of the things that we finally got an answer to. We would make a change in a pitcher's delivery, and the pitcher would be really, really good at it in practice and spring training games. And then when you put him in a big league ball game, he would go right back to his old myelinization. So there has to be enough myelinization, remyelinization, repatterning when you're changing a delivery or building a new delivery for a new whatever movement might be. Um, so it's an ongoing, it's a fluid situation, it's chaotic, and the people that have the best access to qualification of movement, the best access to the functional strength to support that movement, the best access to recovery with sleep and nutrition, and the best access to the mental emotional management of stress and anxiety are the ones that are popping out great athletes down the road. You can be the best. You can be a Bryce Harper, be the best 16-year-old in the history of baseball, but that doesn't mean it's going to be long-term success. What you have to do is make sure that you're doing enough for the body to continually adapt to the changes it's being exposed to. And that is what we're getting better at. We haven't quite figured it out with pitching yet because once we've taught these kids how to throw 100 miles an hour, the game of baseball is not supporting them with the functional strength and adaptation to that 100-mile an hour. And that's why there's so many arm injuries right now. But recovery and functional strength is catching up, and pretty soon we'll be able to match up with the neurological capacity of 100 mile an hour fastball. Or think about some of these skinny little junior golfers that are hitting the ball 310 yards. I mean, you have to jump around the shower to get wet, and they're hitting it as far as anybody that's ever swung a golf club. So it's really an exciting time right now, and I feel blessed because I'm 78 years old and winding my career down, but I can see the new, and I can still remember the old. Um, when pitchers threw 30 complete games, the Burt Blyleven's of the world, and they refused to come out of a game no matter how many pitches they had, to where the game is today. What's better? I don't know, but I remember what it used to be and where it is right now, and I think we're moving in the right direction.
It's certainly an exciting time. There's no doubt about that. And technology is changing everything. And your involvement with the Mustard Golf and Mustard Baseball app is fantastic because it really does. I've been playing around with it for the last couple of days, and it really does give you instant feedback and kind of this structure to fit yourself into. Which leads me to my other question, which is so if we have our young kid before in the pre-adolescent window playing as many different sports as possible, now if we project ourselves into the future and if they've been swinging a baseball kind of incorrectly or swinging a golf just their natural kind of swing, and then when we're trying to actually ingrain a more efficient movement, is it almost a disservice to not to just let them just kind of play anything because they're myelin for potentially a wrong swing or something that could hurt their back or something in the future, maybe ingrained as a young age? Um, I don't really know how to frame the question here, which is I guess it would just lead to having proper instruction as early as possible, but
Yeah,
having that instruction as many sports as possible. Hey, if you're enjoying The Golf Parent, if these conversations have inspired you or helped you become a better parent to your junior golfer, please hit subscribe. It truly means the world to us and sends a powerful signal that what we're doing matters. And if you're feeling extra generous, leave us a review or follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Your support helps us grow and continue bringing you incredible guests each week. Thank you. And now back to the episode.
again, you're right on with your thought process. And sports are games of failure coached by negative people in a misinformation environment. Well,
Okay,
now
well, you have to say that again, Tom. Sports are
game
games of failure
coached
coached by
by
negative people.
people in a misinformation environment. And what we have right now is capacity to fix all those things with a 4-year-old. But it doesn't do you any good to work on muscle with a 4-year-old because there's no testosterone, and he's not going to get, he might get a little stronger, but it's not going to be functional strength. So it's age specific and personally adaptive. Now I'm going to throw you another curveball here, no pun intended. But that 12-year-old that grows 6 inches during the summer between his 7th and 8th grade year, he grows 7 inches and gains 20 pounds. He's not 13 anymore. He goes backward because for every 1 inch of growth, it pushes you neurologically back 2 months. For every 5 pounds of weight gain, it pushes you back 2 months with the nerves that are going into the new muscle. So there's point in time capacity, there's chronological age, and there's biological age. So um, when you look out on a group of little leaguers or a group of, I just saw it this weekend with lacrosse, the biggest kid on the field, uh, you're saying that there's no chance for these other kids to play with him because he's so big. He was not the fastest. He was not the most coordinated. In fact, when it comes to his biological age, he was probably not even the top 20 athlete on the field. So, see, there's so many things going on that we didn't realize before that is it's now in front of us. And the thing that makes me so excited is people like yourself are putting this out there for a parent to see. And what I'm most proud of with what Mustard has done with its pitching app and its literally golf app is it's allowed mom and dad of a 12-year-old athlete, male or female, to get filmed in the backyard and have the equivalent of a $30,000 motion analysis for an elite big league or an elite PGA Tour pro. It puts it right in their hand, and it's in a simple form. And one of the unintended consequences we found in today's generation, the kids learn as good off of a screen as they do in front of a coach. The one piece of the puzzle that we haven't figured out yet is how to personalize this artificial intelligence. But I think it might be because of COVID, if nothing else. A lot of kids were forced to learn on a computer screen. So they are better at looking at their golf app from Mustard, which identifies where they need help and where their strengths occur. They are quicker studies than their parents are with it. And it still doesn't relieve a parent or a coach the responsibility of humanizing the information, but it does make the information more authentic, more, I would say, supportable, because it is based on science and it's not just what we're guessing that we see. Can I take 30 more seconds here?
Please.
The human eye can see between 30 and 40 frames per second. Well, most of the important activities in a golf swing or a pitch or a pass from a quarterback take place at 1/250th to 1/300th of a second. So a lot of the time, we as parents or coaches have been teaching from what our eyes see, and what our eyes are seeing it isn't really true. And now we've got, because even with Mustard, with shutter speeds, we can quantify a movement in a video up to 250 to 300 frames a second. So it's real. What we're looking at is actually real. And the beauty of Mustard is once we've identified the flaws or the good parts of delivery, and they have this little report card, now it refers you to a mechanics fix or a functional strength fix. And that's where the human side of the equation comes in.
How does it work with all of these kind of Is there a templated golf swing, or or does the app allow for the nuances of individual kind of
Yeah,
unique swings?
it does. You're going to see someone that is like for a pitcher, for example, will have a sidearm delivery,
Yeah.
but the variables that we talked about, his controllable and uncontrollable variables, are literally the same from top to bottom. So again, there's one set of rules, but there's a million interpretations.
And Tom, if you were in charge of the program, the secret government program to create the like not super soldier, but super athlete, what would you have them be doing when it comes to athletic movements, sports that they'd be playing, martial arts they'd be doing? Like what would a curriculum, or at least the bare bones of a curriculum, be for the Tom House School of the Elite Perfect Athlete?
To simplify, GFF, eyes level, firm front side, drag your back foot. Now, that sounds too simple, but GFF means go friggin' fast. There's no activity out there where you want to be slow. So whether it's rapid into rotation, whether it's fast into foot strike, whatever it might be, go just as fast as you possibly can. If you keep your eyes level, you're always going to be in balance. If you firm your front side up, you're always going to have the ability to torque or create torque into the rotation. And if you keep your back foot on the ground to contact with a bat, contact with a golf club, or release with a baseball or football, then that lever is like a rudder on a boat, and it will keep you directional until the implement leaves your hand or connects, uh, bat to ball. Does that make sense what I said?
It does, and I feel like that's a masterclass of wisdom in a very short amount of sentences. So I'm going to unpack that a little bit because I feel like there's a lot in there.
Okay.
Go freaking fast. So is that GFF?
GFF.
G
And
GFF.
we clean
Go
that up
freaking
for the
fast.
moms.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Go
Okay.
freaking fast. Everything your child does, when they're running, when they're swinging, when they're throwing, when they're anything, do it fast so that they're training their muscles. And is this something like fast twitch versus slow twitch, or is that genetic, or you're just training that?
You have fast twitch, slow twitch genetically, but you can influence your slow twitch to go fast and your fast twitch to go slow to meet the needs of whatever the swing is. The best example I could think of that might make sense for from a golf perspective is the one common denominator between Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer is that their dads gave them a 5-iron when they were first learning how to swing. Took them out in the golf course and just swing as hard as you can. I don't care where it goes, just swing as hard as you stinking can. And what that does is it creates motor learning that is maxed out with velocity. Force equals mass times acceleration. Power is 1/2 mass times velocity squared. Those two superstar golfers were creating a base that was faster and quicker than anything else that was out there. Tiger Woods is another example. He was asked to swing hard, but the command of the golf course, or the command of the ball, the direction of the ball, is where his supreme athleticism showed up. He was probably as good an athlete from birth as anybody that's ever been put on the field on, a golf course to play. And then you maxed it out with the information he was getting, and that's why he became a prodigy so early. But it happens. Michelle Wie, same with her. Bryce Harper in football. I just worked with a high school quarterback from New York. He was 15 years old, could throw it 70 yards at 15. That was virtually unheard of when I was growing up. So this gene pool is out there. And again, eyes level is balance.
So let's talk about that for a second. How do we eyes level makes sense, but I've never really thought of that as being very important for an athletic movement. So is there a way to train that? Would it be like staring at a candle, or would it be like object meditation? Is it how do we train that in an athlete? Get them to sit on like a balance board and like try and push them off while they're looking? Like, how do we train that eyes level aspect?
It's a combination of hands-on and then looking at video and realizing uh, that for every 1 inch of inappropriate head movement, and this carries through all rotational sports, for every 1 inch up, down, east, west, away from the flag or away from the target, it's going to cost you 2 inches at release point or contact. So if you watch young golfers, uh, the thing that makes them good is they have very little head movement. And if you can't hit a golf ball, your eyes are going to lock on that golf ball and not allow your head to move while your body swings underneath it. In other words, it's almost a self-teach. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I hope I'm not frustrating or pissing anybody off. But I think most kids would do better if they were just left alone until they were 9 or 10 years old. We inundate, and I'm as guilty as anybody. We inundate as parents or coaches. We overteach information when it should be play. When you look at lions out on the Serengeti, the lion cubs look like they're fighting and wrestling and whatever. They're getting ready with all that play with each other. They're learning how to hunt. The same, if I had a wish list, take your kid to the Little League Park, take them to the golf course, whatever, and just let them have fun. If it's not fun, they're not gonna enjoy it. If they're not gonna enjoy it, they're not gonna have passion for something. And I'm gonna give you something that we've researched at not TPI, but at Mustard, is that upwards of 80% of athletes in any sport quit at age 14 because they're not having fun, they've gotten injured, or the coaching is too much for them. So that leaves a group of people that would probably have succeeded if they'd just been left alone. Where if we can get kids to just play and enjoy through high school, they're better human beings, they're healthier, and that gene pool will now produce larger volumes of athletes who can be elite. You don't want them to go home because you're over teaching, expecting results. So we talked off camera earlier on this morning. The power of play is the difference. If you're passionate about something and you've got ignition, that you're really, really loving what you do, you're never working a day in your life. And that's my mom on her deathbed asked me when I was going to get a real job. I have never worked a day in my life. I've worked hard at things, and I've done jobs that would help me stay in baseball. But it's all been through a baseball lens, and I have as much fun getting up and getting nervous about talking to you as I did when I was a kid. Does that make sense?
Everything up until getting nervous talking to me, that doesn't make any sense. No,
I,
but everything else that you said makes perfect sense. Yes,
I don't. I would guess that you always get a little nervous. You always wonder
of
how
course.
things are, and if you lose that, you've lost your edge.
100%. So let's talk about that a little bit of nervousness and how it ties into kind of mental performance. You've been around, like you said, Hall of Famers, the best of the best in three of the most popular sports that are out there right now. What have you noticed kind of separates from a mentality or a mindset or a kind of a mental strength aspect in some of the best athletes?
They all handle things differently, but they have to handle stress and anxiety. Stress. This is basically my strongest field of expertise. Stress is generated externally. They all end up with hormones that can help you or hurt you. Stress hormones versus performance hormones. But stress comes from the outside, and you can manage stress with basically process and preparation and breathing properly. Just believe it or not, just learning how to breathe properly when you are in stressful times, when the stress of the environment, the thing in the environment is creating more issues than your capacity to manage them, you're going to get stressed. And I'm going to do a little sidebar real here. Uh, Everybody I think that has competed in anything has been in the zone. I wasn't in the zone very much as a pitcher, but you recognize it when it's there. And basically, the zone is when uh, the feedback in the environment, the stress of the environment, uh, and the thinking about it is inversely proportional. So the more you think, the more stress is going to get you. The less you think when you're in a stressful environment, the better you're going to perform. So thinking is inversely proportionate to the stress of the environment. And again, that would be the first deep breath and trust in your process. That will help you minimize stress. Now, this is a new one. Anxiety. We used to think that anxiety was bad, but a little anxiety is actually a blessing. Human beings are the only primates out there that can get nervous about something that hasn't happened. Now, I want you to hang on that thought for a second. I've heard through my whole life, play the game before the game, play the game, let the game play itself. And a human being, an elite athlete, and his or her ability to play the game before the game and create the same neurological issues, the same hormonal issues, they are the ones that end up succeeding long term because they're going to figure out that worrying about the game is always worse than actually playing the game. But there has to be enough worry there to have you prepare a little bit more for the eventualities and the non-controllable variables in competition. Is that too much? So stress and anxiety is good. You can't tell a kid, well, don't stress. Don't be anxiety. Manage that, and it makes you a better athlete at any age group.
So what I'm hearing then is stress is external, and so simple things like using breathing exercises, deep intentional breathing. Do you have anything that you've seen kind of really works better than others when an athlete's on the field, or is it encountering that high stress?
Yeah, you're like superstitions. Guys jumping over a white line are always putting the rosin in the same place.
Mm.
Making sure your golf clubs are all in the right sockets, or making sure that your locker, those things are all stress reduction.
Because it's the process. You're trusting your process. I did the superstition that I need to do, therefore I don't need to stress as much.
Yeah,
And then you add breathing techniques into that as well, and then you're
yeah.
calmer.
And everybody has their little quirks that allow them to do that. Now, yeah, I'll just leave it at that because I don't want
Well,
to.
that's fascinating though, because I've never actually thought about, baseball is notorious for the superstitions, and I never actually thought about, so if we look at science, when someone is doing something that they're quote unquote superstitious about, what it's actually scientifically doing is creating a process which reduces the stress and the anxiety, which allows them then to perform better and to access all their natural athletic
You got
movements
it.
because they feel like I've done the things I need to do to then be successful. And then, yes, you can, with the lack of, I guess, knowledge, you can attribute it to not changing your pair of socks, but it's the reduction in the stress hormones that allow you to perform better.
Exactly. You're just managing the process. Now, this is where it
Huh.
gets iffy. If you are uh, basically, there's a difference between ritual and routine. A ritual controls you, and those are the people who have to turn left 3 times before they can turn obsessive compulsive. You have to
Mm.
be careful about having a ritual control you. You control your routine. And if you, and you said it perfectly, all routine is stress reduction. And the better you believe in your routine, the more stress you can handle. And it's not a distress is bad. I hope I'm not being muddy here. but you don't want
No, it
to.
makes it good because that little bit of or that little bit of stress wakes you up, right? That little bit of
Exactly.
adrenaline, that little
Yes,
bit, that's what dials you in.
you
Without
are
that,
exactly right.
you're a toddler picking daisies in the outfield and not paying attention.
No, you're dead on. And guess what you miss the most when you no longer are a competitive athlete? That you miss sitting in the bullpen and seeing the circumstances on the field are going to dictate, oh, I'm going to get in this game. And you start, oh, no, is it going to be, I see it, he's picking the phone up. He's picking the phone up. Okay, get house up. And then you, you get so nervous, you get calm. Did that make sense what I just said? You got
Only if you've ever played at the levels that you've played where you can actually get calm. Someone like me would just get nervous and then potentially
right.
shut down and be like, but
At,
yes, it does make sense.
yeah, at your level of competition, I'll guarantee you that if you play in a celebrity golf uh, tournament, when you tee off on the first tee and you have all those people standing there, that you don't get wrecked. Those things you're Alice. You get nervous because you know that you could duck hook one. And
Oh yeah.
so that is the same thing that big leaguers, that elite golfers on Sunday, that whatever the sport might be, they've just developed a routine to match up with their preparation.
Hmm. Okay, so I want to explore the anxiety notion a little bit more. So you talked about it sounds like almost visualizing. It sounds like almost some of the best athletes can visualize the outcome of the game, put themselves in there, experience that anxiety through visualization so that when they're actually in it, it's not as bad or they've already experienced it. Did I understand that correctly?
I gotta hang out with you more often because you said it perfectly. It's the ability to lay in bed the night before a game and play that game and create the same neural pathway frustrations, the same dissonance, the same hormonal activity that you would during the game, but it's all before. And you also said something else. I used to say, see it, feel it, do it. And that pretty much took care of it until we got this research back on anxiety. Basically, you want to visualize, you want to internalize, and then you can actualize. So not only do you visualize, you have to add the feeling in that goes with that visualization. Yeah, I want you to get just as nervous trying to hit the island green as you would if you were in Sunday afternoon in the finals. So, and believe it or not, even peewees, even the little ones, can visualize. Now, some of it's a little strange when you ask a 4-year-old in the sandbox what he wants to be, and he tells you he wants to be a fire truck. You know he can't be a fire truck, but he can create in his mind the fire truck and the siren and the feeling that it's so cool to watch. So it's actually turning something we used to think was bad, anxiety, because it is hormonal, as is stress, but it's how you manage those hormones when it goes from, the amygdala to your frontal cortex and eventually into action. And some people figure it out naturally. Some people have to learn it, but there's no reason that you can't look at it and decide whether you want to be a participant. That's the total cool thing about where we are in this world today. You can find virtually anything to support what your passion is if you're willing to look for it.
Tom, we do need to hang out more, and I don't know if we're kindred spirits, but I'm grabbing my phone here because for 5 years on my alarm, I wake up to see it, feel it, believe it. And I've been saying that to myself for 5 years. So now I need to change that to visualize it, internalize it, and externalize
Actually,
it or manifest it
actualize,
and
visualize.
actualize it.
Yeah, if you have a visual, you're already ahead of most. If you can tie the feeling to what you're visualizing. Now, can I do it? I keep doing these sidebars on you.
Please, that's what's making it so wonderful.
When you see something, like I'm looking at your nose, but I see the books behind you. I see myself on the screen. I can see I think our gardeners out in the backyard. I mean, but when you close your eyes and visualize, like I'm going to close my eyes and I'm looking at your nose, I cannot tell you what you're doing, but I can see your nose. Now you visualize and you actualize the feeling that goes with me trying to hit you in the nose. And then when you actualize it, it's all completed, and you're still sitting here or laying in bed thinking about it. But tomorrow, when reality pops in, and then from swing to swing, from play to play, from pitch to pitch, you're living the game one pitch at a time. You are in the here and now, but you've already been there.
I guess an important caveat that we should be adding to the listeners and the viewers here is that we should make sure that you're visualizing the positive outcome that you want to be happening, to not allow your mind to visualize you screwing it up or failing or all of the allowing the anxiety to dictate the outcome in your mind.
You're
It's
exactly right.
taming the tiger in your brain and focusing in on the positive outcome that you actually want to actualize.
Because if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
You're right.
Your body will try to implement the last thing that goes through your head. And if the manager gives you the ball and said, "Don't hang this curveball," or "Don't let it take you deep," but your body, your 90 trained cells are going to hang the curveball or let them take you deep. So
100%.
isn't this a great time we're living in?
Oh, it's taken so much of the guesswork out, and yeah. So going back to okay, the visualization one more time here as well. I'm curious, have they done any studies or have they found that can you just purely visualize and create myelin connections in your brain as well?
Yes. Now, I didn't think we'd go this deep, but I'm pretty impressed. What I want your audience to understand, we have not talked about this beforehand, correct?
No.
You're shooting from the hip, yeah. Yeah, you can actually learn by visualizing. You get your 10,000 reps in without ever going on a field. Now, picture that one for a second. Now, it doesn't help you deal with the uncontrollable variables of the field. What's the mountain like? Is the weather bad? Is there too much water around the hole? I mean, but the physical act of visualization can wire your system before you've even gone into the field. And that's another thing we're experiencing. It's called hypermyelinization, so that the mitochondria are receiving more input more often. And the mental reps, the dry reps mentally, are just as important as the physical reps. But in preparation, it gets you ready for competition more efficiently. And when you're managing your workloads and you can recover more efficiently than that has to have 1,000 swings to feel correctly versus someone that can swing 100 times and visualize 900 times and have the same result, that person recovers quicker. You see how all the pieces start to fit together?
100%. And that recovery, I remember reading somewhere that like to obviously to grow muscle after you're lifting heavy weights or to properly create that myelin, you also need to rest. You need to sleep
Yeah.
because that's when you're actually crystallizing or building the connections when you're actually building the
Your
muscle.
first 4 hours of nighttime sleep are for physical recovery. And then every REM cycle after that, 4.5, 6, 7.5, 9 hours, are for the myelin to be put up on a shelf to either program or reprogram for future use.
Phenomenal. Tom, I want to respect. I know you're a very busy man, and you've got many things that are calling you away with your expertise. So I want for people that have been listening to this and are just blown away with the insights and the expertise, and if they want to learn more about getting into your ecosystem, the Mustard app, TPI, like where do people find you? Where's the best place to kind of start when it comes to entering your world?
Right. And I'm a horrible marketer, but I know if they go to teammustard.com, they can go to nationalpitching.com or TPI. I'm kind of like all over. Uh, I I'm kind of backing off on travel, but I'm still working, and I feel extremely viable because I have some, there's experience, knowledge, and wisdom. I'm probably the world's greatest athlete on what doesn't work. So I'd like to share that before my time is over, and getting together. I had fun this morning. And I think we're scratching the surface. Let's do this again.
I would like that very much so. Part two, stay tuned, is coming up. Tom, if you were to leave, if you've got the ears of golf parents around the world, do you have any advice? Do you have anything you'd like to leave with them?
Yeah, make sure it's about your child and not you. Allow them to fail fast forward, where failure isn't a bad thing if you treat it as a learning experience. Too many parents, when they see their child fail, it tears them up. I mean, I had trouble with this and I knew I was doing it. When you watch your child fail in public, it's one of the hardest things to deal with in the world. But they learn more from their failure if they're not judged by their failure. If you ask them why they succeed too. The why, if they're having fun and they can give you a why, then they have an understanding of what they need to do. Fun, why, and what.
Tom, beautiful. Well said, like everything. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and I really do look forward to round two.
Well, you promise we'll do this.
I absolutely promise. Are you kidding me? I'm the one who's benefiting from this and the audience as well. So, no, without a doubt, it's a commitment.
I had a great time. Okay, look forward to seeing you again. Have a blessed day.
Thank you so much. You as well.
All right, see you then.
Thanks for tuning in. As a fellow golf parent, I know how much this journey matters. If this podcast helped you even 1%, please consider following and reviewing it. It's the #1 way to grow the community and keep bringing you elite insights week after week. And while you're here, check out the show description for exclusive discounts from our sponsors, handpicked to help your junior golfer train smarter and play better.